Hey there, scientists! Caroline here. Have you ever heard the term carbon neutral and wondered what it really means? Maybe you've seen it in ads, on product labels, or mentioned in the news. Believe it or not, this simple phrase is connected to some of the biggest decisions countries are making about climate change. In today's lesson, we'll dive into how the world is working together to address Earth's changing climate, from global agreements to national policies, and what all of this means for our future. Ready, scientists? Let's get started. In our last few lessons, we learned that some human activities, such as burning fossil fuels, increase the amount of greenhouse gases in Earth's atmosphere. These gases trap more heat, causing Earth's average global temperatures to rise, otherwise known as climate change. This leads to a variety of challenges, like stronger storms, rising sea levels, and more extreme weather overall. So, what can we do about it? There are two main strategies for dealing with pollution: prevention and removal. Scientists, do you think it's easier to remove existing greenhouse gases or to prevent future greenhouse gas emissions? Pause and record your ideas in your guided notes. Removing greenhouse gases directly from the atmosphere sounds awesome. The only problem is that, with our current technology, this approach is really expensive and hard to use at a large scale. That's why the more practical approach, for now, is to prevent as much pollution as possible by reducing greenhouse gas emissions. The long-term goal is to become carbon neutral, also known as reaching net zero emissions. This means that, overall, we're not adding any extra greenhouse gases to the atmosphere over time. Carbon neutral doesn't mean we have to eliminate every emission, but it does mean balancing out what we release. This can look like planting trees, restoring ecosystems, or using carbon capture technologies to remove gases from the air. Becoming carbon neutral is a big challenge. Can you guess why? The largest source of greenhouse gases is burning fossil fuels: coal, oil, and natural gas. These fuels power our homes, businesses, cars, planes, you name it. They're deeply woven into modern life all over the world. So how do we even begin? When dealing with such a large-scale problem, large-scale solutions can help. This is where global climate agreements come in. Global climate agreements are international promises that countries make to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and support climate action together. Scientists, why do you think global climate agreements are important to addressing climate change? Pause and record your thoughts in your guided notes. Climate change is a global problem. It doesn't stop at borders. Greenhouse gases released in one country spread worldwide, so no nation can solve this problem alone. That's why global climate agreements matter. They set shared expectations, encourage cooperation, and hold countries accountable for their climate impacts. The most recent example is the Paris Agreement. It was signed in 2015 by nearly every country in the world and is still in effect today. Its main goal? To slow down climate change as quickly as possible. Under the Paris Agreement, each country creates its own climate action plan. These plans outline specific timeframes for lowering greenhouse gas emissions and becoming carbon neutral. Countries review and update their plans every 5 years to track progress and make improvements. Of course, it's not all smooth sailing. There are some big challenges when it comes to making these agreements work. Some countries disagree on what's fair. Should wealthier nations have to do more since they've produced more emissions in the past? Similarly, should developing nations receive financial assistance to help them reduce emissions? These questions make it harder to reach global agreement, and they show just how complex international climate action can be. Currently, we're not yet on track to meet the Paris Agreement's goals, but here's the hopeful part. These agreements are making a difference. Data shows that, thanks to the Paris Agreement, global emissions have slowed compared to earlier projections. More countries are investing in renewable energy, like wind and solar. And climate action has become part of national laws and local policies in many places. Even the fact that so many countries are actively working together to fight climate change is a powerful sign of progress and a reason to hope. So here's a big question for the US. How are we progressing toward our own climate goals? Let's take a look. Under the Paris Agreement, the US pledged to cut greenhouse gas emissions and become carbon neutral by 2050. That is a big commitment. But how do we actually get there? One of the most important tools we have in the US is the Clean Air Act. You might remember this from earlier in the course. Do you remember how this law helps regulate pollutants? The Clean Air Act allows the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, to set emission standards, rules for how much pollution cars, factories, and power plants can release into the air. These standards have already helped reduce dangerous air pollutants like nitrogen oxides and protect public health. And recently, they've also been used to limit carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gas emissions. But emission standards also have limitations. Some industries lobby or appeal to the government to weaken them, and sometimes these standards are delayed or even rolled back. Another way the US has addressed climate change is by encouraging investment in cleaner solutions. This can look like tax credits for energy-efficient appliances, financial incentives to buy electric vehicles, or support for installing solar panels, wind turbines, and more. These strategies help make clean energy more affordable and popular. But there are limitations with this approach as well. Incentives can help, but not everyone is able to take advantage of them. Some people rent their homes, don't have access to renewable energy, or face other challenges that make it harder to benefit from incentive programs. These barriers can slow down progress. Another approach used to reduce emissions is a system called cap and trade. In these programs, the government sets a cap on total emissions, and companies must buy permits to emit greenhouse gases. If they emit less, they can sell extra permits to others. You can think of this like buying tokens or points to play arcade games. Eventually, the tokens run out once the cap is reached, but players who have extra tokens can sell them to other players. One example is RGGI, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. This is a group of states in the Northeast that uses cap and trade to reduce emissions from power plants. Data shows that this program has helped lower emissions while keeping energy prices relatively stable. And some experts think it could work nationwide. All right, scientists, we've looked at 3 major solutions. Now the question becomes, are these policies helping the US achieve its climate goals? The answer? We're moving in the right direction, but we're currently not on track to fully meet our 2050 goal. Still, there's reason for hope. As long as we keep investing in climate solutions, progress is possible. New innovations are emerging all the time, like carbon capture in concrete, smart energy grids, and even electric airplanes. These ideas can help us progress faster as we continue to strive for these goals in the future. And with that, we've wrapped up our lesson on global solutions to climate change. We've seen that climate change is a global challenge, and solving it takes international cooperation, strong policies, and bold innovation. International climate agreements help hold countries accountable so we can work toward a more sustainable future together. Up next, we'll turn the spotlight on you and look at the choices individuals and communities can make to help create a more sustainable future. Until then, I'm Caroline, and remember, every choice we make leaves a ripple in the world around us. So don't underestimate the impact you can have. Stay observant, keep asking questions, and I'll see you next time.